Good morning and welcome. On behalf of CBIA, thank you for joining us this morning for David versus Goliath. How small engineering and manufacturing companies can economically compete for the best talent. Guiding us through this challenging topic is Andrew Parker, the owner and president of Hallmark Total Tech, a technical employment and consulting firm with facilities in Connecticut and North Carolina. In this role, Mr. Parker provides senior executive search services in the field of engineering, manufacturing, and information technology. Additionally, he is responsible for hiring, training, and managing a staff of technical recruiters and up to 80 temporary and consulting employees in the field. Before I turn the program over to Andrew, I would like to let the audience know that he will be answering questions at the end of the presentation. That being said, please feel free to submit your questions at any time during the presentation. The field to do so is located in the lower right corner of your screen. At this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to Andrew Parker. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. My name is Andrew Parker, and Philip, thank you for that lovely introduction. I'd like to thank the Connecticut Business and Industry Association for sponsoring this webinar. A couple of housekeeping notes. I'd also like to thank Dr. Garrison Latham, Hallmark's Director of Marketing and Community Relations, for arranging this webinar with the CBIA. I'd like to thank our moderator, Philip Montgomery, and our host, Director, Diane King. Most importantly, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to spend it with me. I love what I do for a living, and sharing it with you is an honor. Finally, if I happen to use the masculine pronoun he or him, I mean that to represent both men and women. I am president of Hallmark Total Tech Incorporated and Hallmark Information Science and Technology, which is a technical recruiting firm established in 1970. We specialize in placing information technology, engineering, manufacturing, and biopharmaceutical people into permanent, temporary, and consulting positions along the East Coast. I am a certified personnel consultant. I hold a BS in economics and computer science and an MBA in corporate finance and investments. I was a teacher at Brewer College in New York City and here at Central Connecticut State University before joining Hallmark in 1983. I think you can calculate how long I've been doing this. Hallmark specializes in small and mid-sized companies, which is defined by the Small Business Administration as companies with 500 employees or less. Let's go to our topic. We have to agree that all companies make a product or provide a service. We combine capital, material, and human resources to create a product or service for sale to your clients and your customers. Therefore, human resources is one of the three most important assets to your company and to your process. And for a person looking for a job, it's probably the second most important thing in their life. The first being who their mate is and their family. The second one being their job, because that provides for all of the financial wherewithal to do all of the fun things that they want to do in their life. So if we agree with this premise, we need to treat it as a highly important asset that helps you create your product. Let's look at the story of David versus Goliath. Most people think David versus Goliath is a story of some little kid shepherd in the field with nothing but a sling, fighting against this giant warrior with swords and knives and all sorts of things. And it's really not. Because if you look back to the day, the shepherds protected their flocks with that sling. They would put a rock in there, and they would swing it around, and when it flung out, it was going to the velocity of a bullet, leaving a gun. Interesting. So what David did was he used his assets, he used his speed, his agility, his advantage to beat the much bigger Goliath. He didn't try and fight Goliath's way. He fought him his way. And that's what this is all about, to fight the fight your way. And if you do it, you have a Goliath-sized advantage in the hiring market. Like anything else, you must plan to succeed. A lot of people use the saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I happen to like the way I've laid it out here. A goal without a plan is just a wish. So what's our goal? Our goal is to find a really good employee at a reasonable price and at a reasonable cost. But that's our goal. But if we don't have a plan to do it, what are you going to do? Sit on the front step of your company going, gee, I really wish somebody would walk by and take my job? It's not going to happen. We all think that the giant companies have some kind of an advantage over us because they've got money, they've got big infrastructure, they've got big human resource departments, big ad budgets. But that's not necessarily true. Henry Kissinger said it beautifully, and my mentor back in the 80s repeated it constantly. It's not a matter of what is true that counts, but a matter of what is perceived to be true. Now, we defined above that people are one of your three most important assets and inputs to your process. Therefore, it requires your attention. You can't hand this one off. And yes, we're all busy. I get it. I'm busy too. But staffing is one of the three key inputs to your output. All right, so we need to define what you're looking for and then begin your process. I love this slide because if you look at it, you're looking to put one arrow into the bullseye. Let's think about that. If you have 20 employees and you lose 5% of your workforce each year, you're losing one person. That's that one bullseye. But if you're a 5,000-person company, you're replacing 250 people a year. That's more than 20 people a month. Think about how much work that is. So how do we do this? We write a clear and concise job description that can be read and understood by anyone. With the education, the experience, equipment, shift, salary, and any other legal and necessary requirements for this job. Make sure that it's neat, that it represents your company well, that you talk a little bit about your company. But don't be like Goliath. Don't make these generic fill-in-the-blank types of jobs. Keep it simple. Don't go overboard with technical specifications. Because what we're going to be going over in a little while is how to reach out to the community to let them help you. Remember, you're David. You need to leverage your advantage. One of the largest advantages that you have is that large companies have to sort through huge numbers of resumes and have to deal with bureaucratic red tape. They have to get the job approved. It has to be approved by the manager. It has to go to human resources. It has to go to the engineering manager, and around and around and around. In a small company, you are pretty much the decision maker. You know exactly what you need. Resumes come into a big company through their websites and from massive amounts of advertising, through the boards, through all sorts of places. They might also be recruiting for 50 positions simultaneously. Therefore, the resumes they receive normally get relegated to a computer database, which subsequently gets searched by keyword by somebody who may or may not know what they're hiring for. But you know exactly what you're hiring for. By defining your job clearly and knowing what you need, you can move quickly, and you can, when you receive a resume of interest, you can immediately. Also, more importantly, you can read between the lines. Sometimes you can look at a resume and say, I know that company. That person from that company probably has the skills that I'm looking for. Whereas a database search doesn't necessarily say that. You're reading between the lines. And if you know the candidate has the right skills, you want to bring them in immediately. You're in your industry. You know what you need. You're looking for quality. You're not looking for quantity. Goliath looks for quantity. That comes down to marketing. Post your job opening everywhere you can at the lowest possible cost. That's pretty obvious, but people don't necessarily do that. Number two is critical. Engage your current employees. They know you. Presumably they like you. They know what it's like to work for your company. They have friends and family. And if you've ever heard of the theory of 6 degrees of separation, if you name every human being you know, and they name every human being they know, and you go out 6 iterations, you have a connection to every human being on the planet. Consider posting your jobs in places of worship, supermarkets, convenience stores, schools, gymnasiums, bulletin boards. Flyers at local stores are helpful. And yes, I know you're busy. But everybody either has a teenager or knows a teenager who's looking for a part-time job. They can go around your town and pin these up on the board. Doesn't cost you a lot of money to do that. And don't forget the Department of Labor. Their website is www.cphires.com. They're not necessarily going to find a nuclear engineer for you, but there are other positions that they're very effective. Let's talk about social media. I'm one of the old guys. I like telephones. I like talking to people. Social media is something that my kids do. But it is valuable. LinkedIn, for me, is a very good source. It's a way of reaching out to the business community. So I do use that. Facebook is a very good social media where you can reach out to your friends or your friends' friends. Nothing wrong with saying, I've got a job open, guys. And then you get into some of the others. Twitter, which is its own lexicon unto itself. You tweet. My son tweets. I don't understand it at all, but that's fine. I have somebody in my company who tweets for us. Nice thing is you can schedule it ahead. And there are a ton of others. Google, you name it, WhatsApp, Pinterest, Instagram. It goes on and on and on and on. You need to keep in mind where your target audience is located and reach them that way. Number 6, Craigslist. It has been very successful for us with certain types of positions. Recently, they've gone from free postings, I think it's $25 a most for the major cities in Connecticut. But it still, if it brings the right candidate in quickly, it's valuable. Career boards, absolutely. There's Career Builder, Monster Board. These are general boards. They're going to cost you anywhere between $250 and about $600, maybe $700 per job posting. The negative is you might get 300 people who are totally not qualified, and it's going to chew up a lot of your time. Don't forget to post your job on your website. Because people who are going to look at your website might have a friend who has a friend. Dice is interesting in the sense that it's mostly for information technology professionals. And then you have Indeed, which is an aggregator. They go out through the internet and pull jobs from various websites, job postings, and they bring them into their own and make it almost look like it's their own posting. The nice thing is it's free. The negative is that you might see your job go up on Indeed 6 months after you've already filled it. You have very little control on that. Number 8, local newspapers. I love using local newspapers, something like the Glastonbury Citizen, the Britain Herald. They're not terribly expensive, and if they're in your town, you're reaching a population that doesn't have to commute to get to your job. Of course, you always have employment agencies, and there are several different types. You have retained, you have contingency search. Those are permanent placement types of agencies, where you go to them and say, this is what I'm looking for. They'll usually create the job description for you. They will vet the employees. They'll come up with what they consider to be the best, or a couple of the best possibilities for you. They'll let you interview them. If you decide to hire them, you're going to owe them a fee ranging between 20 and 35% of starting salary. A retained search, you pay normally a third up front, a third when they present a first candidate, and a third at the end when they've completed the assignment. A contingency firm normally charges less, and they only get paid if they succeed, if they fill the job for you. Warranties can be anywhere between 60 and 90 days, perhaps a little bit longer. The attractiveness of the contingency search is you get a search capability with no cost up front and a lower cost over the long run. The negative to contingency search firms is you need to know who you're using. If you have a good recruiter, this can be a money saver for you. You also have temporary staffing firms where the staffing agency will hire the employee to their payroll, let you use this employee and charge you an hourly rate, which covers their recruiting fees, the payroll, the insurances, etc. And at the end of whatever it may be, 3 months or 6 months or even 9 months, this employee can convert to your payroll at no additional fee. It's a great way of trying somebody out and seeing if they work. All right. If you take a look at this slide, David is looking for one drop of water, not the whole ocean. It's almost like the baleen whales, the Goliath-sized companies need to filter through enormous amounts of water to bring up enough possible food, and in this case, candidates, to fill the number of jobs that they're trying to work on. Look for quality, not quantity, and don't hesitate to hire the first fully qualified person. Goliath is turning around and saying, well, I need to hire one person, but I have to see at least 5 for this position. I need comparative, contrasting candidates. You're a small or a mid-sized business. You don't need that. You need one fully qualified person. You need one drop of water. Keep the picture of the target with a single arrow on your desk and refer to it, because that's what you want. If the perfect person walks in and they're the first person through the door, grab it. And I've made this mistake myself, where the perfect person came in and I said, well, if I can find this on my first day of the search, what am I going to find tomorrow? And I've lost a few that way. Manage your message. Make sure it's consistent from all of your employees. I've had situations where a candidate has gone in, spoken with a manager, spoken to 2 other managers, and all 3 have a different description of the job. Or they all have a different view of what this position is going to accomplish, or what the career path is going to be. Sit down with whoever's going to be interviewing that person and really do a skull session so that you're talking with one voice. Very importantly, explain your mission and why you love what you do. If you're a small and mid-sized employer, you've got to love what you do. You have to. You need that passion. You need to communicate that passion to a potential employee. You want to make them want to sign up with you. Explain the importance of a position. Nobody wants to come in and say, well, you're going to be putting rivets in all day for the rest of your life. They want to know there's some advancement or there's some reason for being. And that's up to you to explain that. Interview intelligently and in depth. Here's where David beats Goliath again. You only need one interview. But what you need to do is interview with your instinct. Yes, you're asking questions, but don't listen with your ears. Listen with your heart. Listen with your mind. Watch. Watch with your eyes. Is this person making sense? Does their life make sense to you? Is the reason why they're unemployed? Or is the reason why they're changing jobs? Does it make sense? Make your interviews count. Check references. I can't stress this enough, but there's no idiot in the world who is ever going to give you a bad reference. What you really want to see is who they're giving you as a reference. If they give me their boss, a coworker, and the former HR director, I'm comfortable with that. However, if they give me their best friend, their preacher, and their sister, we may have an issue. So the first thing I look at is who are they giving me as a reference? And then I will call those references and I'll address the things, the items in that person's interview that concerns me a little bit. And in this case, if you're doing it on the phone, listen. Listen with your heart. Listen with your instinct. Trust your judgment. That's why you're good at business. That's why you're in business. That's why you're a success. Use your instinct the same way you would in any other business decision. Ask questions, but listen to the response. If you say, for example, was this person on time? And you get the, he had a long commute. You've got an issue there. If you want to deal with it, it's up to you. But listen to how the response is coming back to you. Leverage your existing staff and friends for referrals. Remember, people know people who know people. Work to bond with your employees. I can't tell you how important this is. Goliath-sized companies can't do that. At Hallmark, we're planning a fishing trip, a deep-sea fishing trip for this fall. And we're all going to go fishing together. We'll probably do it in the middle of the week. But have a picnic, hold a barbecue, man the grill yourself, flip those burgers and put them onto the people's rolls by yourself. Any outreach that you can do to your staff that lets them know that you care will give you that advantage. So when you go and say, I need some help from you, they'll more than likely be willing to do it. Anything that gives your staff a reason to brag about your company and differentiates your company from the group is important. And to me, most importantly is to say thank you. Every single day when my staff leaves, I look at each one as they leave. They always stop by and go, bye, Andy. And I always say thank you for your work today. I'll see you tomorrow. It's no skin off of my back to say thank you, but it lets them know I appreciate you. All right, let's talk about some more strategies to success. Negotiate an intelligent offer that has a bonus or training or advancement potential that can't be matched by Goliath. If you think about it, there is a job description in front of a human resource person at Goliath with a bunch of keywords, and they're searching for this. The job description was written by somebody who has some kind of a master's degree in human resource management, and it's all good. It's necessary to manage a big company. But you know what you need. And you have the flexibility. If you get a superstar in there, you can move somebody up. You can promote them. You can give them a bonus. You can do all sorts of things that large companies cannot. Advancement potential is very important. Again, nobody wants to feel like they're dead-ended. So where can this job go? Stress the big fish in a small pond mentality. People like to have input. They like to know the boss. My staff knows they can walk by my door and pop in anytime they want. If they've got a question, an issue, a problem, I'm there for them. More people work for a small business than a large business. According to the SBA, small businesses in America account for 54% of all U.S. sales. Small businesses provide 55% of all jobs since 1970 and 66% of all new jobs now. Furthermore, small business sector is growing rapidly, while corporate America has been downsizing. Since 1990, as big businesses have eliminated 4 million jobs, small businesses have added 8 million new jobs. Keep in mind, there is a husband for every wife and a wife for every husband. If a candidate comes through and that person's not right for you, shake their hand and say thank you, I wish you the best of luck. But if you look and you employ some of these tactics, you will find the right husband or the right wife. And then you're going to make a really good marriage based on mutuality of needs. Don't hire the same way a big company does. Streamline your process. Be David to their Goliath. Don't try and imitate them. Play the game to your advantage. Use the slang. Keep tabs on your competitors, large and small. But don't worry too much. Act. Do not react. My ultimate recommendations, and by the way, if you want to put your questions in, they will be taking them and evaluating the questions as we talk. My ultimate recommendation is to be flexible. Use your size to your advantage. Be nimble, move quickly. Very important. Offer a work and home life balance. Be flexible. At Hallmark, some of my best employees, my best recruiters, are parents who are returning or have returned to the workforce. It's important for a parent if they need to put their child on the bus and they can't be at work until 9 or 9:30 and they have to be out by 3. I'm okay with that as long as the work gets done. And I find that the parent who comes in, who has a young child, is so appreciative of our flexibility that they give everything they have. They dedicate themselves to my company. And that's very important. But additionally, they come in and they work. From the second they come into the office to the second they leave, they're happy to be with adult companions. And they like what they do. They enjoy being important to my company. I have some of my best employees started out that way as parents returning into the workforce. And I have one who's been with me 17 years now. Her kids are grown. She stays at Hallmark. It's a good thing. What we do at Hallmark is also we'll bring in interns. Now, I don't know if it's possible for your company. Each company is a little bit different. We'll bring in interns for the summer. We'll bring them in after school so that they can start getting a flavor of our company when they graduate. All of a sudden, gee, I have a ready pool of talent right there. And don't forget part-timers. Part-timers can be a wonderful asset because they're going to come in and they're going to work hard for those period of hours they're going to be there. Sometimes they have the skills. They don't want to work full-time anymore, but you have a fully skilled individual. Don't pass up any opportunities that give you an advantage as David over Goliath. Now, keep in mind, you are the best one to sell your company. It doesn't matter whether it's to your client companies. It doesn't matter whether it's to your employees. You are the company. With a small employer, you are basically the company. You're the heartbeat of that company. You need to get your ideas out of your head into the employee's head so they understand what's going on, so that they want to buy in. Don't forget, a friend is the second most important thing in a person's life. Second most important. That's one of the top 3 things in your business, of your business assets. That's why I love what I do for a living. I love working with the people. I love working with the companies. I love the concept of human resources. I love the challenge of the matching. This has been my love for many, 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 many years. So you need to be the one to make this happen. It's as important as what software you buy. It's as important as what product you're going to design. It's as important as what material you're going to produce. You have a personality. I've met a lot of business owners, business managers, HR directors. You have a personality. You have passion. There's no question about that. You need to use them with everybody you meet. Because you are selling yourself, you are selling your company, you're selling everything that you've got to these people. And most importantly, have fun. I've been doing this for 35 years, almost 35 years, since 1983, all with Hallmark. You need to have fun. I still love what I do. I still have fun at what I do. I like the people I work with. It's the key to success. If you love what you do, it's going to show. Now, my name is Andrew Parker. We're about to go into the question and answer section. But if anything is not answered during this Q&A, please feel free to contact me, aparker@hallmarkjobs.com, Our website is www.hallmarkjobs.com, and my phone number is 860-529-7500, extension 203. Philip, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Andrew, for that wonderful presentation. The first question that we have for you, tell me, what can I expect if I meet a person and call your firm?
It's an interesting question. You're going to get a different response based on which firm you call. But if you're calling Hallmark, you would reach either Dr. Lakin, Garrison Lakin, who is our sales manager, or actually director of marketing and community relations, or me. We are very proud of the fact that we give personalized attention to every single client. Frequently, people will call us and say, geez, I don't even know how to write a job description. Can you help me? And we'll take care of it start to finish. At that point, we'll normally take the job description and review it with the director of each one of our departments. If it's an engineering job, for example, we'll sit down with the director of engineering and say, this is what we've got, this is what we're looking for, this is the client. We have an unusual situation at Hallmark in the sense that nobody is on commission. Many recruiting firms, the people are on commission. Our people are all salaried, and then as the firm does well, they get bonuses. But it's a group bonus. So if a company calls, everybody knows them. There is nothing secretive. There's everybody rooting for the success of the whole. So you'll probably be turned over to the director of that group, who has recruiters working for him or her, and they will lead the search. So you'll always have contact either with Dr. Latham or myself and the director of that recruiting group.
Thank you. How do you determine if an applicant is a potential fit for a specific job placement?
Interesting question, Philip. Can I say a Ouija board? No. There's an art to the science and a science to the art. The average tenure of a Hallmark recruiter is, I believe, 16 years right now. These people have done virtually every cross-section in their field of specialization. So you get an instinct, first of all. Second of all, if we get a good enough rapport with our client company and we truly understand what they're looking for, we know what virtually every company in the region does. We know how good most of their people are. And frankly, we know people who know people where we can say, hey, what do you think of so-and-so? Is he a good person? Of course, we read the resumes, but reading resumes doesn't necessarily mean anything. To me, what means the most is the person's career, the way they've moved forward, the reasons why they've moved from job to job, and more importantly, their passion. Why are they looking to move on? Why are they unemployed? What do my sources say about that person? We've got a database of probably 26,000, 28,000 people, current resumes, and we can usually find people who have worked with them, for them, around them, and we can talk to people. So that's how we do it. We use our instinct, we use our experience, we use our connections to validate the person. We can always take it farther if a client company has interviewed the person and says, I like this person. We can do background checks. There are a number of ways of verifying the person is what they say they are.
Great. Thank you again. I have another question for you. It's from one of our attendees. And it states, I agree that sourcing is key to a successful hiring strategy. However, in a very competitive market for trades, the fact that we cannot offer, due to our size, a fully comprehensive benefit plan, we only offer medical, that is a deterrent. Do you have any suggestions?
That's a fabulous question. That's one of the biggest problems that we as a recruiting firm face, because smaller employers can't give that opulent benefit package. But there are other things that you can give, and we discussed that during the talk, some flexible time, maybe they need a Friday afternoon off, whatever the case may be. Most employees, and again, if you remember, 55% of all people work for small companies. Most employees are not sitting down and saying, what's your benefit package? That's the most important thing. It's not. And if you can somehow link compensation to productivity, that is tremendously helpful. But another alternative, frequently a husband or a wife will be on the other person's insurance. So if that's the case, if you can find someone, let's say that their husband works for the state of Connecticut, and your benefits are mediocre, well, that person can stay on the other benefit package, come to work for you, and maybe you can offer them something else because they don't necessarily need the benefits. These are ways around it.
Okay. Fair enough. Now, I have another one for you, Andrew. I have come across a sentiment in small companies that they are distrustful of agencies because if a candidate is going through an agency, there is something wrong with them. How do you feel about that?
You know, I've never really thought about that one. Philip, you're challenging me today. So your question is that companies are leery of using an agency or using a person referred by an agency? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. There's the notion that there's something wrong with a candidate that comes to an agency.
You know, I would counter that by saying that a candidate that comes from an agency might be better. And the reason being that we're in the market all the time. We're in the market 7 days a week, 24 hours a day through either direct contact, emails, webinars, through various social media outlets, through our advertising. So we are in front of them constantly. The first thing they're going to do is say, oh, well, you know, I'm going to send my resume to pick the agency because I've seen that they're in our vertical. And we find at Hallmark that we get a lot of engineering, manufacturing, scientific resumes, things like that, because we're known to be in that vertical. For a company that is questioning that, I would say if you've run out of and exhausted your possibilities and you're having trouble filling that job, a recruiting firm has the advantage that they can put 1 or 2 or even 3 people on 8 hours a day for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks until they find a particular candidate that's appropriate. And I'll give you an example. This is the late 80s, probably my most painful search. I got a call from an aerospace company, and they said, Andy, we need a test pilot, a helicopter test pilot certified in the UH-1 Huey helicopter. If that's not tough, I don't know what is, but they said, well, there's one more kicker on it. I said, what's that? They said, it's a certified affirmative action female-only search. And what that means is if you have a citation from the government or from a court that says your next 5 hires have to be some specialist or some special category, I can literally go out and say, I can only hire a woman. You know, if you have, let's say, you're going to search for a rabbi. Well, naturally, they're going to have to be Jewish. So anyway, that female Huey helicopter test pilot, I worked for 2 months, 5 days a week, 4 hours a day. I finally located one about 3 weeks after she re-enlisted at the Edwards Air Force Base. So I had to certify for the court that it couldn't be done. Now, I don't know any company where an executive could drop everything for that period of time to try and find someone like that.
totally understand. We do have another one for you. Do you use personality assessment in making a hiring decision?
Interesting question. This is one of the cutting edge questions in the human resource industry, because any testing that you give has to be proven to be non-discriminatory. And you also have the problem that in my company, we have such a broad spectrum: engineering, manufacturing, information technology, biopharmaceutical, and scientific, that there's no way that any testing would be valid. I have found that my people, I have 33 years in the industry, I can talk to people on the phone, I can meet them in person, I can give you a pretty good read on them almost instantly. And I will trust my people's judgment over any canned test. That's going back to Goliath's way of hiring. And I'm stressing that we need to hire like David.
That's a great way to put it. I do have another question. As a federal subcontractor, if I contacted your firm or any other staffing agency looking to fill a position, does using your company fulfill our requirements for considering for candidates who might be disabled, veterans, minorities, etc.?
Thank you for that question. You know, I happen to be handicapped. I'm talking to you through prosthetic devices in my ear and a headset, an amplified headset. So we happen to be very sensitive to people with different abilities. As such, we have connections with virtually every and any organization that you can think of, and we will contact them affirmatively. In other words, that will be part of our search to be inclusive. We do not exclude people for any reason. And again, you go back to that parent hours, that parent who's returning to the workforce. If you find a person who's capable of doing a job, who has some kind of a handicap that doesn't affect the ability to do the job, that's an ideal employee. They're going to be loyal to you forever. That's my best answer for you, Philip.
Oh, that's totally understandable. Do you have a question in regards to policies that a particular company might have? How does the staffing service ensure that temps are aware of sexual harassment and discrimination policies in the workplace?
Every company is a little bit different, but we have a set of employee guidelines that were drawn up by an employment labor firm, actually just recently reviewed again, and we go over it with each employee. And it includes sexual harassment, general harassment, phone policies, computer policies, and on and on and on and on. And they get a copy, they sign acknowledgement of receipt. If there's anything special, there's usually nothing different from our employee guidelines versus most employers. But if there's something specific that a company needs for us to address, we will also do that. And then they sign acknowledgement of receipt of that.
A more broad question. In making a decision as far as which agency I should use, are they licensed by the state of Connecticut?
At one time, all employment agencies were licensed in Connecticut, and they even had a group of people who would come out and inspect your facilities to make sure you had two methods of egress and at least one private interviewing office. Somewhere in the 1980s, the state of Connecticut decided that they wanted to keep the money from the agencies that they were getting, but they didn't want to have to spend the money to do it. So what they did was they had a registration fee. So every agency in Connecticut needs to be registered with the state of Connecticut. Their principal person of record needs to be registered with the state.
Okay. If a little bit about, when I give you a call, as far as the strategy that you use in sourcing candidates for specific jobs.
I'm not sure I understand that, Philip. Could you go over it again with me?
Yes. Basically, what are your strategies for finding candidates for specific jobs?
Gotcha. Well, I go and I pray every single weekend. Seriously. Just like I discussed methods of operation and strategies during the talk, it depends on the type of person. Each and every search is different. If I'm looking for a secretary in a science department, that's going to be one type of a search. If I'm looking, I'll give you a true example. We got a search about 2 years ago. The company does a lot of work for the military, and they needed somebody who was degreed in welding, had to be certified NAVC, Naval Sea Underwater Welding. And this company said, we've been looking for, a year, can't find anybody, can you help us? So we sat down as a group, and we have our, what are called our work in process meetings, and we started banging heads. Where might we find these people? So we started looking, first of all, to the universities. What universities offer a metallurgical degree in welding? And we found there were only, I think, 4 or 5 in the country. And then we chased it down that way. It took us a year and a half. But we finally found the person. It was going hand to hand to hand and phone call to phone call to phone call. So to address what you said earlier, what can we do that's different from what some of the other companies can do or what big employers can do? I can pick up the phone and make 100 phone calls or 50 phone calls a day and talk to people and find out, do they know anybody? Just like you know, Philip, you know a bunch of people. And if I were to call you and say, hey, Philip, I'm looking for some people in the area of production. Can you help me? You might. So that's what ended up happening. We ended up getting referred to a NAVC certified welding engineer down in Virginia Beach.
I know this is difficult in part, since you just said, but if I were to go to an agency, what's the average length of time it would take to get to fill an assignment?
That's like saying, I want to go to a store, and what are the odds that they're going to have my size in pink shorts? It's a matter of, again, what the assignment is, but in general, from the time a search is received to the time the person starts is normally 8 to 12 weeks. If it's something that's readily accessible, because again, we have that database of 26 or 28,000 people. If I can reach into my database and pull someone out, it might be a week. On some of our consulting assignments, we can normally give 48 hours, 72-hour turnaround time because we keep our consultants are on a hot list and we know who's readily available. So it depends on the type of work that's being done.
Okay. Very much. Now we have found someone in the week, as you pointed out. How does an agency handle ending assignments early when a temp or consultant is not performing as expected for a client?
All right. Again, I'm going to say it depends on that particular agency. In my firm, either the department manager, the head of our engineering, manufacturing, science department will personally call the person and tell them your assignment is over, or I'll do it. And frequently, I will do it because if somebody's going to be mad, I'd rather have them be mad at me. We normally try and do it as gently as we can, and we'll never give the reason why they're being terminated. But we'll turn around and say something that will cover and protect our client company something along the lines of, gee, unfortunately, there wasn't as much work as our customer expected, so they've asked us to end the assignment early. There's just not enough for you. I want to leave that person with their dignity.
Okay. Fine, let them down easy, so to speak.
Yes.
I do have one question which seems to be closed and I don't have any more on my screen. But are there any current trends or issues in regards to hiring, employment, or recruiting in general that you feel we should be aware of?
Yeah, the biggest one was just announced that you're going to have to be very careful about checking the box, is what they're calling it. In the past, you've been able to say, do you have any criminal convictions? And sometimes they even allowed questions like, do you have, or have you been arrested? The newest regulations that are just coming out, and they haven't even been completely published yet, are leaning towards you can't ask anything about a criminal history until you're ready to hire them. So when the offer goes out, you say it's contingent upon, and that can be very time-consuming, particularly if you have a situation where you have to bond the person, if you have fiduciary responsibilities. That this is getting very, very tricky and very difficult. Record keeping is very important these days. Are you affirmatively reaching out? Are you fairly reaching out? So, for example, when I go out to a search, I don't just pop up an ad. I will call various women's organizations, affirmative action organizations of any and every sort that I can find. I will call handicapped organizations, military veteran organizations. I'll do a complete outreach so that everybody has a fair opportunity to become part of the process and part of the hiring. And it's important to document that. I think those are the two most important things going on right now.
Fair enough. You said something earlier in that last response in regards to fiduciary responsibilities. And that leads us, we did get one additional question. How does the staff and service ensure that temps adhere to client confidentiality and responsibilities?
No, you got me on that one, Phil. So, again, and again, I can only talk from Hallmark, so I apologize to our audience. I can only talk from my experience. I have been with Hallmark since '83 and have done, other than teaching, nothing really else. In my firm, the labor attorneys that we hired have in there a work made for hire clause, which means that anything that our consultants, our employees, our temps do while on assignment with the client company belongs to the client company. That's number one. Number two, anything that they see, they hear, is proprietary information that belongs to the client, and they can become personally liable or be fired, or both, for violation of that policy. And finally, frequently, we will use the same group of temporary employees over and over again. We might use the same engineer or machinist or engineering research scientist 2 or 3 times until somebody finally either hires them away or they decide to move to another state. Who knows? But we'll keep using quality people over and over again as long as they're available.
Yeah. I see there's no more questions, Andrew. So on that note, I would like to express our gratitude and thank you for sharing with us your thoughts on this topic. It was certainly enlightening. And again, on behalf of CBIA and the attendees, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for your help today, Philip.